Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my overview of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So for those on across that I do overviews on this channel, it's where I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game. That's a Steam refund window. Steam says that you can make up your mind about whether you want to keep a game or not in that time, and broadly speaking as a rule I agree, and would say that 20 hours in you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short punchy video, broad strokes info, keep it around 10 minutes and then you can make up your mind on your own. So let's lead with this. This is quite excellent so far. I'm really quite into it. I wouldn't say I was particularly hyped or not, but if you are hyped, if you're sort of holding out hope that this might be a bit of a return to form from Bethesda and Machine Games, because honestly, both of them have had spotty records in recent times despite their pedigree. Machine Games specifically, you have a look at like the Wolfenstein games. The first one was brilliant and after that they sort of just dwindled. And Bethesda's sort of been in gamers' bad books in recent times. So yes, it's early days in this game, but they have handled it tastefully and it's really quite awesome. And it's very Indiana Jones. So like, that's probably all you really need to know. But I'll say this much, right? I got the key from the developer. Great, wonderful, disclosures, whatever. I just got it now, and it activated as part of the advance access period. So if you really want to throw your money at it, go for it, fill your boots. It's $170 Australian to get access to it a couple of days early. So look, even though I think this game's great, not in any universe do I think it's that great. You could just wait a couple of days and play bloody RimWorld or something instead. So yeah, look, I don't necessarily want to dwell on it or anything like that, beyond the fact that I think game prices are kind of getting a bit expensive, a bit cheeky, and I do wonder how much of it, because this is in the AAA space, is tied into the sort of AAA industry kind of getting rocked pretty hard and trying to, instead of deal with dwindling player bases and interest in launches, there's been a lot of high-profile launches that have flopped, and I wonder if this approach to sort of just try and gouge players instead of fixing the issue and helping get the numbers up through quality is, I gotta wonder. Because $120 for a brand new game is pretty insane, up from 90, and then another 50 on top of that just to pay it a bit early. It's getting ridiculous. But let's put all that aside. Let's pretend this is 3 days later and you're gonna pay just the launch price. I think this is a pretty awesome entry so far. They've got the music, the look down. Something actually, I'll lead with this, that jumped out is because the game opens with a essentially seemingly shot for shot kind of remake mini prologue tutorial scenario of Raiders of the Lost Ark's intro. The rolling rock, that sort of thing with the bag of sand. It's really quite awesome. I am a Indiana Jones kid. I grew up on it. They've got the Harrison Ford thing pretty good. I'm pretty sure that's Troy Baker because it sounds a bit like him, but it sounds a bit like Harrison Ford, and they kind of almost, the faces kind of look like a bit of a smushing of the two of them as well. So it's this weird bloody love child of these two men, and I think it's as good as you could probably ask for, as old bloody Harrison's aging out pretty rapidly. But the point that I want to get on that's really struck me is I wonder if they sort of had a come to Jesus moment discovery when they recreated their cinematics to mimic cinematic blocking and shot composition, right? I'm almost certain that the shots in this opening sequence are the shots from the movie, and you can tell, and it stands above, from a cinematic perspective, most other AAA games in the space, where it's, it's bloody Mass Effect characters pacing around with tired faces, that sort of thing. Like, I'm being a bit facetious, but you know what I mean. There is a jarring component that still separates games from cinema, and it would seem that they've taken those learnings and they've put it into a lot of the cutscenes and interactions throughout this experience so far. And not only is that in the main campaign, where you've had some really cool exchanges with like Brody getting a bit of a play, your sort of old sidekick back at the university. It's kind of cool to see him as a character. They're exploring that space. Actually, quite surprisingly, at least where I'm up to at the moment, I don't have to want to give it away, but I'm sort of cruising around in the Vatican City, exploring in a semi-open world. Like, we've got some side quests and that within this area that I'm moving through. And I'm doing a side quest at the moment, collecting a book for a nun, and that's got cutscenes as well and blocking. Like, he sat down on the bench to talk to her. It's got music that's going with the beats, with the shots. I've gone up to my friend within the narrative, Antonio, and back and forth, and he's just given me sort of a sewer key access, and it's like, oh, well, we better find this book, and rah, rah, rah. But my point is that this is a skippable side quest as best as I can understand, at least according to the journal. And if this is making you think of things like Witcher 3, that's because that's what it's reminding me of. So many people let the Witcher 3 discourse around side quests be overshadowed by the bloody Baron gameplay and quest, which, yes, that was great. It's a standout, very cool. But what they miss is that all of the side quests in Witcher 3 have sort of substance because they have cinematic blocking and a bit of a mini narrative with them, as opposed to be, go collect me bloody X pieces of paper or la-di-da. So this seems to have that philosophy where it's going to have side quests in it, and they're going to be involved and interesting and have you hooked, because most of us don't really give a shit about collecting coins and points, and we just want to enjoy more narrative. So that's one thing. I know I've spent a bit of time on it, but that's actually really jumped out the page at me. As far as the sort of moment to moment, you can probably figure out it has that sort of first-person adventure game. I sort of commented on being a bit more hyped about it when I covered Chronicles of Riddick earlier in the year. And it is the same sort of thing. This first-person narrative, a camera that jumps between first and third, very gentle stealth action, I would call it. So it's not like really immersive sim. It has some pretty basic stealth mechanics wherein you kind of want to grab chair legs and furnitures and violins, and you sneak up behind dudes and you can one-tap them on the hit. Other than that, you raise the alarm or whatever, you get into punch-ups. It's got the sound straight out of the movie, the the punching from that era, and it's so cool to hear. So attention to detail is significant, and they have clearly handled the source material with let's call it a reverence, and I'm just really, really impressed by that. Oh, and another thing as well, because again, I don't want it to get away from me. I'm kind of a bit of a stickler for UX and UI design, to the point where I kind of have a bit of a philosophy that if you're making a player jump into a menu or pause or essentially fourth wall break into a wall of text outside of the world, you kind of lose in a way, like a certain step. You kind of lose a beat with the player, and that's something that you have to sort of recapture through immersion. So yeah, okay, you've got your pause options menu, which you're never going to touch. In the 2 hours that I covered this, I never touched that, because the other button, the back button, the game wants you to use thumbsticks, and the thumbsticks work well, is a journal, right? And you can page through it, and that has the map, as far as like a sort of, not GPS, but like as long as you're holding up the book, you can sort of see in the real world where you're going as well, and the map updates in real time, and it doesn't pause the game, it stays in real time. You can look through all the stuff that you've collected, all the little notes as well. There's a kind of thing that throws back to the whimsy of the Fallout upgrade systems with Vault-Tec Pip-Boy dude. And you can, collect these sort of little novellas on boxing and brawling and endurance, and they go into this master sheet of almost like a Dewey Decimal System listing of all the different books, and you can buy upgrades in a semi-RPG mechanic in there. Anyway, my point is that all that sort of, if you want to think of menus in two ways, there's the system level menu where you change your, shadows or DLSS, but then there would be the internal in-system menu, which would be the game's mechanics, mission markers, that sort of stuff. So this game draws the line expertly between the two, to the point where this journal, you will open, the game will never stop, and you never stop feeling immersed through the whole thing. Anyway, look, I don't want to waffle much more. What are other thoughts? It feels like Uncharted, which makes sense because Uncharted was obviously aping sort of, masculine urge to go explore the Amazon that you get from Indiana Jones. And that's one thing you could say about Uncharted. I wouldn't necessarily say that the moment-to-moment, gunplay and fighting and all that's strictly even that good in the Uncharted games. But the spectacle and the sort of carrot on a string that drives you forward, that Indiana Jones vibe of investigating on an adventure, that is absolutely here, and I'm very, very curious and invested as to where it's going, collecting my little bits of treasure and notes and insight. So yes, I'm singing high praise because it deserves it so far. Anyway, I don't want to waffle more than that. Obviously, I'm quite enamored. I think it's a really cool game. Pick your price point, pick your poison, whether you got to wishlist it and wait 6 months. I know that's what a lot of people do. But for my part, as a dude that's got the key sitting in his lap and has played a chunk of it, this is really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to playing more. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.